Hey everybody, I'm Randy from ElderGeek.com, and with me today as a I don't know, special guest reviewer is Michael, who is normally a streamer on our Twitch TV channel, and today we're actually going to be talking about the first 25 levels of the Elder Scrolls Online, and moreover, our first week with the Elder Scrolls Online. Michael, hey man, welcome aboard, dude. This is your first time officially doing a review of sorts.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for having me for, I guess, the review portion.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I want to do this one a little bit differently is because it's a different kind of game. It's a huge MMO, and they're really kind of hard to review. There's so much kind of going on, but to kind of cut our story, I guess, a little bit short. Elder Scrolls Online unlocked for everybody on April 4th. We had the Imperial Edition, and so we started 5 days early. So we officially started. When this goes live, it'll be Sunday. So we will have been playing the game for 1 full week, and we played it a lot. A lot of co-op in this, and we're taking our time. You know, so for anybody thinking like, wow, they're already at 25, there are already people out there with like veteran levels 4 and 5 who are just like burning through the conversations and getting to the end. But we're taking our time and we're reading the stories, but we are playing it a whole lot, you know, so it's not like we're just sitting down and doing it at 2 hours at a time. We're playing it a lot. That being said, I think the both of us are enjoying it more than we were expecting to. Michael,
Yeah.
you want to have anything you want to kind of add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm liking it a lot more than I was, I guess, looking forward to it going into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried about, how heavy the lore was going to be, because MMOs are pretty, they have a good amount of lore and stuff.
Right.
But sometimes they tend to be about, more about just like getting the players to end game content than they are about telling a really good story.
Right.
And that it completely blew me away. There's
Yeah.
an amazing story going on.
This definitely does seem to want you to not rush,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
And considering there are veteran levels, so when you finish up playing your game on one continent, you go to the other continents. There's a lot of end game content with this. And aside from that, there's also the PvP open world constant battle going on. So even that, like the higher level you go, the more likely better chance you're going to survive out in the battlefield as well. So even more end game content. So if you're worried about end game content with MMOs, this one is just swimming in it.
Yeah, at least for right now.
For right
There's
now,
tons.
yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff. I mean, because I think when you hit level 50, then you can move on to the other two continents, and do all the quests through their storyline, and then you have Cold Harbor, which is, I'm not positive, but I believe that's like the end game kind of area for now. And then you've got all the PvE-esque stuff you can do in the PvP realm.
Right.
And there's tons of quests out there to do too.
Yeah, so it's almost like there's always something to do for now. And the quests that you get in Cyrodiil, the open world PvP area, they recycle, but they, so you could keep getting the same 5 quests from the same 5 quest givers, but considering it's literally all of Cyrodiil, you don't need to be continually farming those same 5 people if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
That being said, I think the both of us liked it a lot more. I was expecting it to be buggier at launch. There are still bugs. There are still some progress halting bugs in some quests, but compared to where the game was in the beta, it's a much smoother product. Like I'm impressed at how much Bethesda got done in between their final beta and release.
Yeah, there was, I think the last beta weekend before the early access, there was probably like six main quests that you needed to be able to finish to go on technically to like the next area.
Right.
That you could not do.
We're playing in.
Never happened.
Yeah, we are still playing in the Daggerfall Covenant, and that's where we just had like a cluster of, like you said, about 6 quests that were just no going forward. There would be like a crowd of 20 or 50 people standing around waiting for the same boss, monster to spawn, and it just never would happen. And so yeah.
They got a lot of those. A lot of those are patched now.
Yeah.
They were patched basically day 1 of early access.
Yeah.
And I think I've only ran into, I think, 2 quests so far out of levels 1 through 25 that I haven't been able to do yet.
Right. That's levels 1 through 25. So Michael and I don't know of anything beyond that. So
yeah.
But saying that, you know, if somebody were to say, hey, is it worth buying? You know, I would say for the $60, at least for the very first month, that I definitely got my, not only my MMO itch, but I also definitely got my Elder Scrolls itch and my good role-playing game itch scratched by the Elder Scrolls Online. So if you were just curious about that, that initial purchase, then I would say, yeah, it's totally worth the initial purchase. But that being said, it still does have issues. You and I were saying that like the matchmaking system right now is just kind of downright horrible.
For
doing groups.
Oh yeah. The grouping's a little weird. I think you're only allowed a max group of 4, which is a little odd for, I guess, an RPG co-op, or like if you go back to like harken back to like D&D style times, like groups were groups of 5.
Right.
And to be limited to 4 is a little difficult, especially when you're trying to do the dungeons. So we tried to do the first dungeon in the Daggerfall's main first starting area, which is Glenumbra, the level 12 dungeon, and with 4 players, that's difficult.
It was very hard.
Yeah, and we tried to bring 5 in, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
now you bring a 5th guy in.
You can convert it into a large group, which I think is it's either 20 or 16 people you can have in a large group. But for like instanced dungeons, you can only go in with the 4. Yeah.
I think we had 24 people is the max you can have in your large.
Is that what it is?
24? Yeah, 24. It's 6 groups of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we go too far into this, I kind of wanted to like throw this out there, because this is going to be a complaint from a lot of people is people are going to say, is it enough of an Elder Scrolls game to be an Elder Scrolls game, or is it just a WoW clone with an Elder Scrolls skin on it? And I don't know, I guess the answer is a little bit of both. You know, it is an MMO, and a lot of MMOs have kind of modeled themselves after World of Warcraft. Is this an exact model of World of Warcraft? No way. There's a lot of new stuff that this game is doing, and there's a lot of stuff that World of Warcraft didn't do that this game has also, taken from Dark Age of Camelot as well, like its open world realm versus realm gameplay. And the fact that you can do all 3 continents with one character, I can't think of any other game that's done that before. Can you?
No, I don't know of any other game that allows you to, like, I guess once you beat your factions area, to go to the other factions and kind of quest through there. Not that I think off the top of my head.
Yeah, and that's pretty impressive. I think that's a good step forward for MMOs. But is it Elder Scrollsy enough? I'm gonna say yeah. I mean, even though it's not like your traditional Elder Scrolls formula, like the totally open world, go anywhere at any time, do whatever you want kind of thing. There's still so much good Elder Scrolls story and good Elder Scrolls lore in here that I think it's definitely worthy of the name and its background. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that the story in this is better than most of the Elder Scrolls games so far.
Yeah.
Even though the story does seem a lot like Oblivion's.
Yeah. But I think that's because, Oblivion, it kind of falls into the whole, Daedra thing that was going on, and this is the second era of Molag Bal trying to set Tamriel on fire, so there's similar, like, I guess, problems going on in the 2 stories, but they're different.
Yeah. And considering this, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I will say I'm enjoying the story of ESO way more than I enjoyed Skyrim's story. I don't know, there's something about Skyrim's story, it's not the same for me, like when I play like Oblivion or Morrowind. And so I guess I liking that about ESO.
Yeah,
I can get like really into it again.
I agree, and it's also kind of nice that the Daedric princes and princesses, I suppose, I don't know if you can if they're technically known as princesses.
I think they're official. They officially go as Daedric princes, and then depending on which way they show themselves, I guess other humans or elves. Because
there are some that actually do have both a male and a female, version of themselves. But I like that in this, the Daedric princes that we've encountered so far have a heavier impact in the world than they did in some past Elder Scrolls games. Whereas in like Skyrim, it was just kind of like, you would go to a town and like Varamina is like, they were like, 5 people are asleep in town and you got to go slaughter everything in that castle up there. And then the curse is lifted and you're done with Varamina.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like an entire portion of
Region.
your continent is like somehow it all ties back into that one Daedric prince.
Yeah.
And I really like that. You know, the story is much more complicated than most past Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah. It's nice because they kind of, instead of just having like, oh, you know, Vermina was there and you touched her on one quest, kind of a thing. The different princes kind of get to take over a whole like zone or questing region, and you kind of get to know a little bit more about them and how they interact with the people of Tamriel than just like, oh, here they are doing stuff.
Yeah. Now, in terms of combat, it's a little bit of a learning curve. It's not your typical, you know, push button and go MMO, and it's not you don't have an auto attack either anymore. Like some you would just leave on and you would auto attack. It's all done with left and right clicking, and then of course you have 5 hotkeys, or maybe technically 6 if you can include your pot.
Yeah, or your ultimate.
And your ultimate.
Yeah.
But yeah, you still do have hotkeys, but the hotkeys aren't based on time. So it's not like you can't hit it and then you have to wait for it to recharge. It's all based on mana and stamina. So if you had enough stamina, you can just keep hammering your one special move and you'll keep pulling it off over and over again. Yeah. And same thing with magic. You can just keep casting your magic as fast as you can as long as your magic is there.
Yeah,
but,
which is the way it's done in Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah, which is the way it's done in Elder Scrolls games. Now, the combat isn't going to be like if somebody was looking for a 1-to-1 combat ratio, like it is with Skyrim, where you block and wait until they're done swinging to slap them back. It's not like that at all. It is a little more on the MMO side of things, but it's not bad. I think it's in terms of MMOs go, I do like this combat quite a bit.
Yeah, I like it actually quite a bit. But there is definitely a learning curve to it, and as you get higher in level, it gets harder and harder.
Yeah,
and you've really got to start to think about how you're gonna plan your skills and stuff, because you'll run out of mana and stamina fast.
Right. And that that's actually something else I wanted to talk about was the difficulty. There was a lot of people saying that the game is too easy, but I'm not having an easy time, and everybody that's in our guild, at one point or another, they're saying like, "Hey, I'm stuck with so and so. How do I do this?" kind of thing. Yeah. And sure, it's easy-ish. Like your standard monsters out in the world are easy-ish if they're the same level, but that's the same as any other game. But like the boss encounters, or sometimes if you pull 2 instead of 1 by accident, or God forbid you happen to pull 3, you could be in a whole lot of trouble. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve. I do find it difficult. There's also been some videos out there, and this is not like saying Force has done a bad job. I think Force's videos are pretty awesome. But Force was saying that he was having a super easy time with some of the local bosses. There's like local open world bosses. I have never had an easy time with any of them. Like, I've never been able to ever solo any of those.
Yeah, and then I don't know if it's just because of the class I'm playing, but I'm playing my main is the Nightblade, which is I've rolled into basically bow and then dual wielding daggers, and I can't solo any of the open world bosses by myself. No, I need at least one person there. Better if I have 2.
And my main is a heavy sword, two-handed sword or two-handed weapon sorcerer. So both doing like combat and mage skills at the same time while wearing heavy armor. So I have like crowd control abilities, but I can also smack pretty hard as well. Yeah. But even still, man, I have a tough time with those bosses out there.
Yeah. I think if anyone's saying that it's easy, they're probably playing the Dragon Knight class, because that's what I rolled for my second.
And I actually watched him doing it. He's pretty impressive. He does it with a Nightblade bow class, so pretty similar to your build, and he rocks it, man.
I need to look into what he's doing.
Seriously, he rocks it. Right. I'm like, wow, that's really good. But I think he's just a really good player.
But it could be that, yeah. I mean, but I will say my Dragon Knight that I'm playing, she is much easier to take down elite mobs by myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't get chunked nearly as hard on that character as I do on my assassin.
Yeah. As far as like MMOs go, I would definitely give it a worth buying. As far as RPGs go, I would definitely give it a worth buying. And as far as multiplayer games go, I would totally give it a worth buying as well. And people will be seeing, gameplay footage over here of it going on. But the open world of Cyrodiil is pocked with, I think it's 21 keeps. I could be wrong. But there's 21 keeps that people can take, and within those keeps sometimes are Elder Scrolls, depending on how many Elder Scrolls you happen to be, your country is controlling. And you can steal the Elder Scrolls from other countries. It takes a massive undergoing to do. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to sneak into the enemy castle all by myself and take it and go home. That is never, ever going to happen.
Yeah, before they patched the DK trick with taking the Elder Scrolls.
Exactly. There was a trick where people could do it.
I would have liked if they kept, because it would have added a bit of like trickery and spies and kind of an underground politics going on with the different factions.
Yeah.
But I can see why they took it out.
Yeah. But it is an undertaking, and it is quite a task to do it. And I have some footage of us when we actually captured one and returned it, back to our base. So aside from actually capturing it, which is an undertaking because it'll take like hours probably to whittle down like the forts to actually get to their gates that you also have to pound down to go and open up their Elder Scroll, castle. Yeah. Then you have to run it all the way back to your place. You can't just teleport home. You've got to like run it back. So footage I have is like 200 horses all just riding back all the way across Cyrodiil.
I think, isn't that when we had our 24-man raid group that we had made?
We did. I think we had like a crazy huge raid group going on, and it was pretty cool. Right now we're playing as the Aldmeri. No, we're not playing Aldmeri. As the Daggerfall Covenant on Wabbajack or however you want to pronounce it. And
it's dirty Aldmeri, man.
Well, what's funny is the Daggerfall Covenant is kind of the underdog in most countries, but on Wabbajack they seem to be a dominant force.
It feels like the Ebonheart on Wabbajack is the underdogs.
Yeah. And
like Aldmeri and Daggerfall are constantly taking their scrolls from them, and they have to keep coming to get them back. That's
actually something I want to even talk about. Aldmeri Dominion, the home of the Wood Elves, the High Elves, and what's the human race there? Wood Elves, High Elves, and the Khajiit.
Yeah. No, wait. Are they? Yes, they have Khajiit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Wood Elves, High Elves, and Khajiit, like, everybody is playing that country.
Yeah, because that's what everybody likes to play in Elder Scrolls games is Wood Elf, High Elf, and Khajiit.
Right. Everybody is in that country. And so like almost any server that you pick, like any multiplayer server you pick is going to be dominated by the Aldmeri Dominion. And so it's kind of sad, but this actually kind of, I don't want to say it supports what Bethesda chose to do, but if you pre-ordered the game, you were able to play as any race in any country whenever you want. And I think that ended up being a good thing, because then people who wanted to play as High Elf, Khajiit, or Wood Elf didn't necessarily have to play in the Aldmeri Dominion. They could play them wherever the heck they wanted, and then kind of open it up for everybody.
Yeah, kind of try to level the playing field. I think they knew that Aldmeri Dominion was going to be heavily populated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was part of the reason why they might have went through with the play any race on any faction,
right?
Just to kind of level that out a little, and I think it definitely helped.
It's
definitely not as that one beta we had where you could only play the race in a certain faction.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we went to the PvP, it was Aldmeri was locked down like 5 of their campaigns already.
Yeah, and everybody else had like maybe one blip or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one I was playing on, I went into Cyrodiil to see like, oh, are there going to be any fights going on? And literally the Aldmeri Dominion had conquered the entire map. And it's like, what fun is that? Why would you even do that? But yeah.
It's just, I don't know. That's the problem the Secret World had too when that came out.
Yeah.
Is you could play, one of 3 factions, and then the PvP was, everybody could join into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was there was one faction that just got way more players than everybody else, and they just rolled hard.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they're going to have to open up the floodgates, later on. Or maybe even just make it like a cyclical thing, like where one race from one of the realms could actually play in the other one. So each realm would have 4, but there would be one overlay race, for each realm or something like that. you know.
That would actually work pretty well in the lore, seeing how there's a lot of instances of
shared borders and stuff.
Yeah, shared borders and people migrating, because of fights and battles that were happening.
Yeah. So something like, I don't know, something like the Ebonheart Pact could also get the Red Guards or something like that, and then the Aldmeri Dominion could get Nords or something, just have one race that kind of cycles around. But the funny thing is, like, your race, aside from looking how you want them to look, racial bonuses do play a pretty heavy role early on, but we're finding as you go further and further along, it almost doesn't matter what race you roll, because it matters what class you kind of roll and how you build that class. They help, but they're not going to be like gigantic.
Yeah, it's not where, like, you always lose against the high elf because he has a better stat on his race than you.
Yeah.
They do help in the beginning quite a bit, especially when you're trying to level up certain armor sets or weapons and things. But towards, I would say about where we are right now, about mid game or halfway through the leveling.
Yeah.
About level 25, they start to drop off in how much of an importance they play.
Especially in the realm versus realm. There's always been, I've been reading a lot of questions from a lot of people saying, like, oh, what's the best class to roll in realm versus realm? And the reality is it almost doesn't matter. I'm not running into any class out in realm versus realm that's just like, there's a Dragon Knight run kind of thing. It's basically like, if there's one guy and we happen to be two guys, we're gonna go after that one guy. Unless that one guy happens to be like double your level or something like that.
Which has happened.
I
think I was in a fight. We had 6 of us, and we were fighting a level 50 veteran 4, and he was trouncing us.
Yeah.
We were not doing anything to him.
Yeah. So even then, but you can still take those veteran 50s down if you have enough people and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of nice. It's like a local boss that you guys tried to fight there. I do think that your realm level also gives you more points. So like if you were to kill a level 10, I don't think you get as many realm points as you do if you were to kill somebody higher. Don't take that as Bible though. The realm versus realm stuff is really exhilarating though. When you're out there and you've got siege weapons going and everything like that, it can be heart pounding, man. Cracking those walls down and getting inside, trying not to die before all that happens. Or
and then having to run back,
and then having to run all the way back, because it's a huge motivation to not want to die because the distance between the keeps is huge. And then we'll also play quite a bit as let's just call them like interception squads, or
how do you put it? I mean, I guess it's like a resource cutoff.
Resource. Yeah. We create these little squads that we use to kind of pick off the reinforcing armies as they trickle back into the big battles, which actually is a pretty effective way of helping your war. But
it definitely slows the assault down.
It slows the assault down, but when you're that one guy and suddenly 4 dudes pop out from behind the bushes and just murder you without any mercy, on the receiving end it sucks, but on the giving end it's exciting.
Yeah, which I think we've actually had that happen to us before.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess the way I was looking at it is like, don't dish it out if you can't take it.
Exactly. Because it's not even just in the battles. Like we were actually, because there's a ton of just dungeons to explore out in Cyrodiil as well. We just as a group were going and exploring a dungeon, and we were just saying, boy, wouldn't it be funny if we ran into somebody else while we were down here? And just then, like, this group of 4 came in and just smashed our faces into the ground, and it was kind of like you got to be kidding me. But at the same time, that's kind of the fun gamble that you play. We were deep within enemy territory and we were exploring one of their local dungeons, and I can't think of many other games that have that kind of experience.
No, yeah.
Just earlier today when I was playing the game, while you're out in the open world, it will give you some quests that you can go and do, and they happen to be anywhere within Cyrodiil. And the one quest that I was given was like way, way, way behind enemy lines, and it was like go and help. I don't remember what town it was, but it was just a tiny little town like Bruma or Cheydinhal or something. So I was in this tiny town, and I was deep within Aldmeri Dominion territory, and I had just finished my quest. I handed it in to the woman. It was like, you know, you had to go knock out a band of bandits. So I went to go turn it back in. And as I'm turning it back in, I turn around and there is a Nord standing in the doorway with his red, you know, Ebonheart, you know, sign over top of his head. And I think the both of us had a moment of like, oh crap, what do I do? And so, you know, like just at that moment, we both started hammering keys or whatever. And we just had this like all out little rumble in this woman's little house.
Oh,
you know,
God, the woman must be terrified.
Yeah, right. But it ended up like I won. It was a total close call. Like I just must have had like the right, you know, heal button, you know, set. He might have had like a stamina bar or something, or stamina button. But
Nice.
it was like down to the wire. Like I burned through all my magic and all my stamina, and my health was like a sliver. And then like when he died, it was such a heart pounding moment that I can't say I've really had that kind of thing in many other MMOs or even many other multiplayer games. You know, because you lull yourself into that sense of I'm okay.
Yeah, you're like, there's no one way out here. Come on, who's ever gonna find a single guy?
Yeah.
No, they find you.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. Other people are out there doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're out looking for sky shards, looking for dungeons, you know, random quests, there's other people out there doing that. Because if you've thought of the idea to go do it, somebody else is gonna think of it too.
Yeah, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna go and find all 12 of the Mundus stones out in the open world, somebody else is gonna be probably with a party doing the exact same thing. Yeah. You know, it's full of little exhilarating moments like that, and I think that's what kind of makes this MMO stand out compared to other MMOs out there. You know, if you're just a diehard Elder Scrolls fan and you only love single player games, you know, I would say maybe give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, you can play. I mean, the whole, I guess, regular part of the game, not any of the PvP, is very heavily, you know, soloable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only stuff you probably really need like 1 or 2 friends to help you with would be maybe some of the world bosses, and even then, the world bosses, I don't think there's quests for them.
No, there's no quest for world bosses, and you could always just stand around and wait for another fighter to kind of come along and you know, and do it.
Yeah.
I'm totally addicted to the crafting system in this game. I love the music. I think the art style is fantastic. I actually can't go back to Skyrim without modding the daylights out of it. Like even super modded Skyrim, I'm having a hard time kind of rolling back to it because I'm really starting to love the art style in Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, the art style is really good. And I think I enjoy it more than I enjoyed the art style of Skyrim.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying, you know, semi-realistic is bad or anything.
No.
It's great to see games like that.
But something about like
they did
just
a good job, yeah.
You know what else? It's not even just like in Skyrim and in Oblivion. It was like iron mail, steel mail, mithril, you know, ebony, glass, etc. That's what it was. In this, it's like there's a specific style for all the races. So you have a huge choice in what you look like as you get higher and higher in your levels. So you could even, I don't know, don on like elven armor even if you're level 1 and you're not an elf kind of thing. And it's really, really neat. And that elven armor changes in appearance as it goes up in levels as well. And also depending if it's light, medium, or heavy armor. So the weapon and the armor design in this is outstanding. And I don't know.
And even the, I guess, the named weapons, some of the named weapons, and just for instance, when you actually get, for a small period of time, when you get your hands on the Wabbajack from Sheogorath, it is the Wabbajack.
Yeah,
it's
it looks
not, you know,
just like
a regular staff. It looks just like it.
Yeah,
which is great to see.
There's a lot of little touches like that. Where you'll be like, wow, this is just like the Iliad ruins from Oblivion, or like, wow, this is just like the I don't know, it's a dragon what were they called, the dragon sorcerers? The dragon priests. The dragon priests, thank you. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is dragon priest from Skyrim. Yeah,
same mask and everything. I mean, it was like they ripped it right out of the game for Skyrim.
Really, really a good game. So I would honestly say if you're only into single player games, it might still be worth a try. Like if you're totally afraid of MMOs, I'm sure the game will probably drop down to $30 sometime soon. I don't predict it going free to play. So, like there's everybody that's saying like, oh, it's gonna be free to play in 3 months. That is not gonna happen.
No way. The community is so strong right now. It's really strong.
Super strong. I think there's a lot of people that are just absolutely loving this game. There's a lot of vocal people out there who it's not their game, and that it is totally their right to not like it. But this has a super strong community, and I do think this is going to stick around for a while. I hope it does stick around for a while. I plan on sticking around for a while.
Me too. I've seen a lot of people just in zone chat and then on different comments on other videos and things about the game. A lot of people saying, I thought this game was going to be bad. I hated the beta. You know, it wasn't anything what it was supposed to be. And then they're like, but now that I've gotten past like level, 15, this game is amazing.
The story keeps getting better too.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I would say if you end up getting the game, give it a chance. Don't cut out like a lot of people do at level, after about 2 hours of gameplay. Because 2 hours in this game, you're not going to be level 15.
I've probably spent more than 2 hours just crafting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So give the game, I would say, if you pick it up, give it the 30 days, and actually try to play a good amount and try to get to at least, I would say 15, maybe 20. Guarantee if you like Elder Scrolls games, you'll fall in love with it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. That's our impression based on levels 1 through 25.
Yeah.
We'll try to come back in a week again to see, what our next week in Cyrodiil is like. Maybe we'll like it a little bit less next week. Maybe we're gonna be like, I can see myself getting bored of this PvP. Who knows? Who knows? Or maybe like, oh wow, there's a mass exodus of players who left to go play Dark Souls on PC.
Or WildStar.
Or WildStar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually want to give WildStar a try, but I don't have the bucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks everybody for listening to us ramble. I think both of us recommend it. Whether you're an MMO player or just a single player kind of gamer, or even if you're not like necessarily like an Elder Scrolls fan, it's a really good RPG as well. There's a lot of customizations. There's a lot of great story choices to be had in here, and it's all fully voiced, and it all sounds great too. So yeah, it's got its bugs, but I still think that in spite of those bugs, I still think it's worth the ride.
Totally.
All right. Hey, see everybody in a week.
Come play with us.
Yeah, come play with us. See ya.